Please proceed, Ms. Alameen.
Thank you, Your Honor. Are you able to hear me this way with me being muted?
I can hear you.
Okay.
Can anybody else hear her?
Yes.
Okay, great. Please state your name for the record.
Stacy Ann Allen.
And you are currently employed by the Texas Department of Family and Protective Services?
Yes, I am.
Are you familiar with the child?
Yes, I am.
And you are actually the current CVS caseworker involving, correct?
That is correct.
Okay. So you've been aware of Brittany Pringle and Joshua Bird since about April 2023?
Yes, that's when our relationship began.
Okay. And as far as the agency becoming aware of the allegations involving Novalee, how were you first notified of concerns involving Novalee?
So I returned from my FMLA leave on the 25th of July, 2024. Upon returning, I would have reached out to all my foster parents. I would have reached out to all my parents and also visited my kids. Miss Pringle would have been on my list, top priority, since we have a very good relationship. So I reached out to her. I would have visited her at the home, where she indicated she had just returned from the hospital with Novalee.
Okay. Did you go out to the home to visit Miss Pringle and the baby?
Yes, I did.
And initially, what did you observe?
I observed that Novalee was a bit congested, and Miss Pringle would have brought me up to speed, indicating that they had spent almost a week in the hospital because of the medical concerns regarding Novalee since she was born. Miss Pringle would have indicated that they had to switch up the milk because she wasn't gaining weight properly. She also indicated that there's a possibility that Novalee may have been epileptic. And she sent me pictures. She showed me the pictures where Novalee was in the hospital bed with all these different contraptions connected to her, where they were monitoring and testing her.
Okay. So at that time, did the department have any concerns involving Miss Pringle and Novalee?
No. We didn't. I questioned Miss Pringle as to whether she's doing okay, because she appeared to be under a lot of stress with a new baby and doing other things. So we chatted a lot about it, and she asked for my support, and I was there for her. I told her anytime, anywhere, just text me, call me, I'll be available.
Okay. And since July, when you went out to the home to visit, have you had a chance to see Miss Pringle interacting with Novalee in other visits?
Yes, I have. Every time I would have dropped off Layla, I would have seen Brittany interact with Layla as well as Novalee.
Okay. Can you explain how Miss Pringle's demeanor has been on each one of these encounters?
Okay. Miss Pringle has she's been her usual self. She talks a lot. She moves a lot, especially when she's excited. So on those prior visits, she wanted to show me all the things that she would have done and gotten for the kids. She would show me around the house. She showed me the girls' room. She showed me their clothes, all the things she would have bought. So I would have been able to inspect the house. It wasn't the cleanest house, but she's a newborn mom, so I expect certain things. So I gave grace for a lot of things in the house.
And as far as her demeanor on a day-to-day that you've seen her, you've been dealing with Miss Pringle since April 2023. How has her behavior or her demeanor been on these encounters that you've seen since Novalee?
Her behavior has been the typical behavior, and by typical I mean Brittany shifts a lot. She doesn't stay in one position at all. She moves a lot. She talks a lot. She does on some occasion close her eyes sometimes. There's one I have noticed twice in my entire interaction with Brittany where it has been a cause of concern for me, the closing of the eyes and the slurring. Outside of that, she shifts and talks and moves a lot, but that's a typical Brittany.
Okay, so would it be, I guess, fair to characterize her as someone who's an upbeat person, kind of hyper movement a lot?
Yes, she is.
Okay. And her regular day-to-day demeanor that you've seen her in, those have not caused concerns for the department?
Oh, no, it has not.
Okay. So let's talk about You sent her for a drug test on August 22nd, or the department sent her for a drug test on August 22nd, 2024, correct?
Yes, we did.
And that drug test results came back as negative for methadone, correct?
That is correct.
Was that a concern for the department being on this methadone treatment program?
Yes, she's not supposed to test negative at all.
Okay. And this is upon you speaking with the clinic and knowing what dosage she's on. The information that you're understanding is that she should never be negative for methadone.
That is correct.
Call for hearsay.
Sustained.
Do you know what dosage Brittany is on at this time?
I believe it's
Objection calls for
110.
hearsay.
It's
It would be
sustained
for Miss,
and Miss
has
Engel
Miss,
testified in
I'm
her
sorry.
testimony that it's a split dose of 120 milligrams per day.
So, did you see Brittany on August 22nd?
That's if
That would be the Thursday before the incident, before the intake.
yes,
Okay,
yes. Dropped off. That's a Tuesday.
Thursday.
No, it would not. No, I
Okay.
wouldn't have seen that a Thursday. No.
Objection
Okay.
sidebar. Okay.
Um,
Withdrawn.
did you talk to Brittany that Thursday? Do you recall?
Speak to Brittany a lot.
Okay. Okay, but nothing of significance from that day, correct?
No, no.
And you didn't know that her results would come back negative on that day, correct?
No, if it was the day of sending her for the test, I would have spoken to her to confirm that she's going. She did indicate she didn't have a car at that point in time and was asking if I would assist in transport because she had the baby. And I indicated I am not allowed to transport parents like that.
Okay. On August 23rd, 2024, Friday, did you have some communications with Ms. Pringle?
Yes, I did.
And what were the extent of those communications earlier in the day?
It was in regards to what time Layla would be dropped off and whether I would be the person dropping her off. I would have indicated to Ms. Pringle on that morning that I was unable to because I was called into an urgent meeting and our transporter, Ms. Bella Galvan, would have been doing the transportation.
Okay. And when Ms. Galvin dropped Layla off at the home, were there any concerns the department had at that time?
Objection calls for speculation.
When the oh, I'm sorry. This is because you did not do the transport, right, Miss Allen?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, that's sustained.
If there were concerns that the department has when transporting a child and dropping a child off, would you receive notice of that?
Yes, I would.
Did you receive any notice from the transporter?
No, I did not.
Calls for hearsay.
That's
part of the department.
That's sustained.
Did you receive notice? Period.
No.
Okay.
Mhm.
Did you talk to Brittany that day after Layla was dropped off?
Yes.
And what was the exchange of that conversation?
She sent me a photo of Layla with a lot of filters. And I indicated, I was like, that does not look like Layla. She was like, you are crazy.
Snapchat filters?
Yes.
Okay. Did she tell you that she wanted to talk to you about the case?
Yes.
At that time, did you have any idea of what she may be referring to?
No.
Okay. Did you tell her that you were going to talk with her about it later, or what was the conversation? How did that discussion get put on hold at that time?
I told her I had a lot on my plate, I had a lot of meetings, and I would call her later on.
That you would call her later on?
Yes.
Okay.
Mhm.
What time periods have you showed up to Miss Pringle's home? Unannounced or announced?
Both.
Okay. What time periods?
I do drive-bys at all hours once I'm on that side of town. I also, when I'm dropping off Layla, she knows I'm coming. Outside of that, sometimes on a weekend, I do drive-by, she doesn't know. But that's the nature of my showing up, one for a better term, visits to Miss Pringle's house.
Okay. And when she has Layla, she is aware that the department or CASA can drop by at any time unannounced, correct?
That is correct.
Okay. On the evening of August 23, 2024, Did you receive information from Adam Williamson?
Yes, I did.
Objection, hearsay.
It was a yes or no question.
Well, that's overruled so far.
And based on the information you received with Mr. Williamson, what steps did you take?
I contacted my supervisor. I would have explained to her I have certain concerns based on information provided to me. And as a result of this, I was paying Miss Pringle a visit that night.
And around what time was that?
I received the information around seven, a little after 7. And the reason I know this, I had just finished another visit, which ended at 7 p.m.
And so after talking to your supervisor, you decided to go pay Miss Pringle a visit.
That is correct.
Around what time did you arrive at her home?
Approximately 9 p.m.
Okay. And is it unusual for you to make a split decision choice to go visit a home based on another person's statements?
No, it's not.
Okay. When you went to her home, did you knock on the door?
Yes, I did.
How many times would you say you knocked, or for how many minutes?
I probably knocked about 5 or 6 times.
Okay. Did she open the door?
Yes, she did.
And what did you observe when she opened the door?
I observed Miss Pringle. She was wearing some tin strap top, like a tank top, some shorts. She had Novalee on the left hand and a yellow KitchenAid knife on the right when she opened the door.
Okay. And around what time was this?
This was around 9 p.m.
Okay, so around 9 p.m., she opens the door with Novalee in her left arm,
That is correct.
and a kitchen knife in her right.
Yes, a yellow KitchenAid knife. I have the exact same knife.
Okay. And what did she say when she opened the door? Or what was the exchange between the two of you?
I was like, wow, Brittany, what's up with the knife? And she's like, oh, Miss Allen, I thought you were Josh.
Okay. Why would she make that statement? Do you know?
Later
Objection
on,
calls for speculation.
Sustained.
Did Brittany tell you why she thought it was Josh?
yes,
And what did she tell you?
she stated that Josh had made threats to her and the children.
Did she tell you how recently Josh had made threats to her and the children?
Yeah, she said it was within that week.
So within that week, he made threats, and she had them. Did you ask her about opening the door with a baby in her arms?
Yes, I did.
And what did she say?
She stated, well, mother instinct could kick in, you know.
What did that mean to you?
To me, it meant that she's willing to defend whoever if they were to attack.
Did she tell you why she even opened the door with a baby in one arm and a knife in the other hand?
Well, she said she looked through the window and she saw my car in the driveway. So she opened the door. Because I asked, I was like, didn't you see my car? Yes, I looked outside, but I thought Josh was with you.
Okay. And does that cause concerns for the department?
Yes, it does.
Why did that cause concerns?
Because to open a door with a knife and a young infant in your hand, it caused for a lot of concern. The rationale behind it. I don't think it's proper for, if you're so scared for your life and you open a door with a knife and an infant, the responsibility of defending yourself as well as this infant, it's very, very high. And I'm not sure she'll be able to do both.
Was Novalee awake or asleep when you saw her?
She was awake.
Okay. Was she crying or in
No, she
distress?
wasn't crying.
Okay. So after Brittany saw that it was you, what happened next?
She invited me in. She went to the kitchen. She put down the knife and we started.
I'm sorry, she's cutting out.
To lay eyes on Layla.
Okay.
I didn't hear
went
any
into
of
the
that.
Only
Laura.
me.
How far did you
Cut
hear
out,
that?
the entire thing cut out.
Start over.
Okay.
Start over from when she put the kitchen. Did you hear how she put the kitchen knife down?
The last thing I heard was invited me in.
Okay.
Okay. So Miss Pringle invited me into the home. She went to the kitchen and put the knife down in the kitchen while I told her I needed to go lay eyes on Layla. So I walked down the hallway and I went into Layla's room to lay eyes on her. After which I returned to the living room and I started chatting with Miss Pringle.
Where was Novalee when you went to check in with Layla?
Novalee was still in Miss Pringle's hand.
Okay. So when you came back to the living room, was Miss Pringle sitting or standing?
She was standing.
And Novalee was still in her arms?
Yes, she was.
And how was Miss Pringle's demeanor?
She was, she shifts from side to side in an even manner.
Like a swaying motion?
A swaying.
Okay.
Swaying. She was also chatting like a lot. but also at the same time slurring in her speech.
And let me pause you there. When you say slurring in her speech, have you noticed her slurring in her speech on previous occasions?
Yes, on a prior occasion back in December of 2023.
And other than that incident, on your regular encounters with Miss Pringle, does she slur?
No, she does not.
Okay. And what else was going on with her demeanor?
Miss Pringle was also at a point in time closing her eyes while speaking to me and holding Nova.
Okay. Did you have any concerns about her status at that time?
Well, I was worried because she opened the door with a knife. So I was trying to inquire from Miss Pringle, what is the nature of this relationship right now?
Who?
Her and Mr. Bird,
Okay.
that she is so scared in relation to the threats that he had made to her and the kids.
Okay. And what did she say to you?
She stated that Mr. Bird, she doesn't know where he's living currently. She does know that he's still working at the Goodwill. He's making money and he's using a lot of drugs. I asked Miss Pringle, why is she not at her mom's house? If she's so scared for her life, why are you not at your mom's house? She stated to me, my mom has a lot going on right now and I don't want to add to it.
Okay. Seeing her in this, the demeanor that you explained about her eyes closing and her slurred speech and her swaying, did that cause concerns with her holding Novalee in her arms?
Yes, it did. Actually, Novalee started hiccuping at a point in time during that visit. And I asked Miss Pringle to hold Novalee. I said, let me see if I could try to stop that hiccup. And she said, oh, you feel you're a professional now that you have had a baby? I said, well, I know a thing or two because I also have a newborn baby. So I took Novalee in my hand and I did this new hiccup thing that I learned, which is basically rubbing the back upwards to assist with the congestion and stuff like that.
As far as Miss Pringle's demeanor, based on her demeanor, did she appear intoxicated?
I can't say she was
Actually causes
intoxicated.
Speculation.
Sustained. Although she said I can't
her
say she was intoxicated, so.
Right. As far as her appearance and what you saw, did you believe that did it appear to you based on her behavior and demeanor that she may be under the influence?
Something. She was not the regular Brittany I have seen on a daily basis.
So it appeared to you based on her demeanor that she might be under the influence of some kind of substance?
Yes.
Okay. And did that cause concern for you?
Yes, it did.
When you checked on Layla, did Layla appear okay?
Yes, she did. She was sleeping.
What else did Brittany tell you during that visit regarding Nova?
During that visit, Brittany also indicated to me that Nova was still very congested during the night. She indicated that she had been co-sleeping with Nova because if she had not, she would have woken up to a dead baby.
And why would she say that she would wake up to a dead baby if she didn't co-sleep with Nova?
Because Nova was frothing at the mouth.
Foaming at the mouth?
Yes.
Okay. And did Brittany tell you how many other previous occasions that had happened?
She said it was during the week.
Okay. And did Brittany inform you how she was co-sleeping with the baby?
She said she was co-sleeping. Simple that she had to co-sleep with Nova in order to monitor her because she was experiencing all these different medical concerns.
Okay. And is that a concern for you, given Miss Pringle's state at that time?
Yes, it was.
And why was that a concern for the department?
Because under policy, we do not allow co-sleeping, especially with parents who have a known history of substance abuse.
And based on her appearance that evening of being possibly under the influence of some substance, did that cause concern of her even more so co-sleeping with the baby?
Yes, it did.
What did she tell you about her relationship with Josh?
She indicated that she and Josh is not on good terms. She also indicated that Josh had made this threat to harm her and the kids because she refused to give him video access to the kids. Her exact statement to me is that Josh said, if he doesn't have access to the kids.
And it's overruled.
Josh is the party in this case, Your Honor.
I overruled it.
If he does not have access to his kids, no one else can.
Approximately how long was this interaction with Miss Pringle this time?
It was approximately, I would say close to an hour because I was observing Brittany Because she chats a lot, we did talk about other things. In particular, she was talking about her relationship with Josh. She even went on to, she said, Miss Allen, I know it's against policy, but I would love to see your baby. I would love to see a picture of him. I'm like, no, Brittany, no, we can't do that.
Okay.
She even went on to say, yes, I know I've made some poor decisions in my life with regards to the men and the children of
Objection to
my.
the hearsay at this point.
The narrative. Let's do it by question and answer.
So you would say you probably had a discussion with her for about 45 minutes and then stuck around for about anywhere from 45 minutes to an hour total.
Yes.
Y'all are getting all robot-y again. Is that just for me?
I can barely understand them.
We didn't hear you at all, Miss Alameen. It was very robot-y. Or whoever.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. So during this discussion with Miss Pringle, did you see the continuation of her words slurring and her eyes being droopy?
Yes.
And did that stay consistently throughout your conversation with her?
Yes, I was at that point in time. Once I had Nova, I was rocking Nova and rubbing her back, and Miss Pringle and I were conversing. And this is where the cause of concern escalated, because she was talking to me and she would close her eyes and then open it again, and then close eyes again and open it again. And I've seen this behavior with Miss Pringle on a previous occasion back in December of 2023.
Where she was also under the influence of a substance?
Yes.
Objection calls for speculation.
Sustained.
After talking with Miss Pringle, what did you do?
I told her that I am on call that night and I'll be up until 3 a.m. So I was actually making an excuse to go outside to staff this case with my supervisor.
Did you tell her you'd be back?
No, I did not.
Okay. So you went outside and you spoke with your supervisor, and what was the decision made?
Decision was made to take Layla out of that circumstance.
Okay. And how long was that phone conversation with your supervisor?
About 10 minutes or less.
And were you still near the home?
Yes, I was. I was outside.
Okay, so after that phone conversation, you went back to Miss Pringle's home,
Yes, I did.
and did she open the door?
Yes, I knocked on the door and she opened the door.
Did she have a knife in her hand this time?
No, she did not.
Did she say why she didn't have a knife in her hand this time, if she was opening it for Josh?
No, it
Or
wasn't.
if she was opening it thinking it was Josh?
No, it was not discussed.
Okay. Going back to when she did open the door thinking it was Josh, did you ever ask her, Miss Pringle, why would you open the door if you thought it was Josh?
Yes.
And what did she say?
She said she would defend him.
She would defend herself and the
Yeah.
baby?
Mhm.
Did you advise her that perhaps calling 911 would have been more efficient?
No, I did not.
Okay. So when you went back to the house the second time and she opened the door, where was Nova?
Nova was on the couch.
Okay. With who?
Herself.
The 2-month-old baby was left on the couch by herself?
Yes.
And how far is the couch to the front door?
It's about 15 feet, 10 to 15 feet.
15 feet. So Miss Pringle left a 1.5-month-old baby unattended on the couch while she opened the door.
Yes, she was actually on her mobile cell phone when I knocked on the door and she opened. So she was opening the door and had the cell phone. And I immediately walked in. I said, pick that baby up from the couch.
And was that a concern?
Because she left a infant on the couch.
Is that also a concern because of Layla's case where that similar incident occurred on the couch?
Objection leading the witness.
Okay.
Sustained.
Once you went back into the home, what did you do?
I told her I was here to remove Layla.
Did you explain to her why?
Yes.
And what did you
We can't hear you again.
I can't hear.
Can't hear you again.
She discussed with me that she was fearful.
Miss
this
Ellen.
in my county attorney's office? So I don't know why or what's going on, Jay.
Can you hear me?
We did not hear your question, Miss Alameen.
Once you went into the home, Did you tell Miss Pringle why you were removing Layla?
Yes,
And what did you tell Miss Pringle?
I told her based on what she communicated to me that Josh had made threats as well as the safety and concerns that the department have for Layla. I have to remove her out of this circumstance.
And is that more so due to the fact that CPS has TMC of Layla?
That is correct. And I would have placed Layla in that environment.
So you picked up Layla and did what?
I asked Miss Pringle for Layla's belongings
And then?
and then I left.
Okay. Did you leave Nova? Well, no, let me back up. Didn't Miss Pringle pick up the baby from the couch?
Yes, she did.
Okay. And so when you left with Layla, where was Novalee?
She put her in the bassinet, which was positioned right next to the TV.
I got right next to the TV, but I'm not sure.
Yes. Agreed. Miss Alameen?
Maybe try audio from Tanya's because Stacy's the one who's frozen.
Or come in on audio on your phone.
Oh, we're both on our laptops, but I had muted myself.
But Stacy's frozen.
Oh, well, Stacy, we're gonna have you come around next to me then. All right. Is it okay if you can't see me, Judge, but you can see her?
There y'all go. That's fine.
Okay. So so you said you left Novalee. When you left, Novalee was in her bassinet next to the TV?
That is correct.
Okay.
Mm-mm.
I'll just close down my laptop.
You might want to turn your volume off. Judge, it just said recording in progress. Not sure where that popped up from.
I don't know because I'm not even touching my computer. I don't know because
Okay. Can you hear me now?
yes.
Okay. Why didn't you take Novalee with you if there was concerns of Brittany's actions and threats made by Josh?
I have no power to remove Layla. No power to remove Novalee out of those circumstances. So what I did in fact do prior to returning to Miss Pringle's house the second time, I would have called a statewide intake.
Okay. And around what time did you call that intake?
9 closer to 10.
Okay.
Mhm.
And what information did you communicate on that intake?
I would have communicated that I am the existing caseworker on a case with Miss Pringle. I would have placed in her possession Layla Bird, and I'm currently removing Layla Bird from the house due to concerns. One, Miss Pringle's possibly under the influence of something. Two, the threats made by the children's biological father, Mr. Bird. And three, Miss.
Oh, let me back up. Before you made that intake call, during that discussion with Miss Pringle in the home, did she indicate to you that she had even rolled over on Novalee on one occasion when she was co-sleeping with the baby?
Objection calls for
Sustained.
text not in evidence.
That's also sustained.
During your conversation with Miss Pringle regarding her co-sleeping with Novalee, did she indicate to you of any times where she may have rolled?
Objection leading the witness.
That's sustained.
Did Miss Pringle tell you anything about any incidents that occurred while she was co-sleeping with Novalee?
No, she did not.
And did you receive a report that called prior to your visit to the home? Did you receive a report that caused concerns for the department involving Miss Pringle and co-sleeping with Novalee?
Yes, we did.
And what are the department's concerns with co-sleeping with Novalee?
Rephrase your question.
Sorry.
Objection, I
Yeah.
believe that's been asked and answered what the department's beliefs are on co-sleeping.
Sustained.
Did Miss Pringle ever indicate to you that she possibly rolled over on Novalee while co-sleeping?
Objection leading, Your Honor.
Sustained.
Did you ever receive any information that Miss Pringle rolled over? Did
Objection
you
calls for
receive any
hearsay.
information? I'm rephrasing. Did you receive any information about any incidents that occurred with Miss Pringle co-sleeping with Novalee?
Objection calls for hearsay.
And hearsay.
Sustained.
Sorry, you said you called an intake in and you told when you called the intake in, you told them about the concerns for Miss Pringle's, what you observed that evening, correct?
Correct.
And the slurring of the speech, the eyes closing and her swaying. You also told them about Mr. Bird making, how Miss Pringle had said that Mr. Bird was making allegations of threats against the children?
That is correct.
Okay. After you called that intake in, what did you do?
I went back into the house and removed Layla.
Okay. And so when you removed Layla, did you return her to her foster parents?
Yes, I met with the foster parents halfway, and then I returned to Miss Pringle's house.
Okay. How long would it have been from the time that you left Miss Pringle's house with Layla to when you came back?
About 20 minutes.
And what did you do when you got back to Miss Pringle's home?
I was awaiting the investigations.
Okay. And did the investigator eventually show up?
Yes, he did.
And once he showed up, what did you do?
We would have gone back to Miss Pringle's house and knocked on the door.
And did Miss Pringle answer the door?
No, she did not.
And how long did you stay when law enforcement came?
No.
Okay. How long were you there trying to get Miss Pringle to open the door back up?
About 30 minutes. But
Okay.
I had stayed positioned outside the house waiting for the investigative team to arrive.
Okay. Did you also try calling her?
Yes, I did.
And when you weren't able to reach her, did you call anyone else?
No, I did not.
Okay. From the time that you came back after dropping Layla off to the time that you left Miss Pringle's home for the evening, how much time had you spent at that home?
I would have spent approximately 3 hours for the entire visit from the time I initially arrived to the time I left. And for the second time, I would have spent about an hour. Well, yeah, just over an hour outside the house.
Okay. After, and was anyone, do you know if anyone from law enforcement, not law enforcement, CPS able to make contact with Miss Pringle that evening?
I was informed that the investigator,
Objection
he
calls
left his card.
I'm sorry, objection. What was the objection?
Hearsay.
Sustained.
Do you know if CPS made contact with Miss Pringle that evening?
Mr. Jorge left his card in the door and took a photo of it. I was present for that.
Okay. And after you left the home, did you ever receive any information that law enforcement made contact with Miss Pringle?
No, I
Objection calls
didn't.
for hearsay.
Sustained.
Based on your interactions and working with Brittany Pringle since April 2023, does the department have continuous concerns for Novalee prior to her removal? From the time that this August 23rd incident happened?
Yes, from August 23rd, the department started having concerns. Prior to August 23rd, we would have received information, but based on my observation and interactions with Ms. Pringle, I had no concern then. On August 23rd, I did have a concern.
And do you believe that that concern may not have been possibly a one-day concern or one-time incident?
Possibly.
Objection calls for speculation.
Sustained.
Miss Allen, I'm going to show you. Nope, take it back. Oh, I'm going to show you a copy of your affidavit for your recollection. Would you take a moment to take a look through that affidavit to refresh your memory, please?
Here's, I don't recall her saying that she was having a hard time remembering anything. What is she refreshing her recollection on?
A question, As part of the affidavit, the intake portion of the affidavit, Your Honor.
Well, but there's not a question yet that's been asked.
Okay,
That's where she needs to refresh her recollection.
okay. Do you believe that there, at that evening, that, and since then, prior to Novalee's removal, that there was a danger to the physical health or safety of this child?
Objection calls for speculation. Didn't she just testify that prior to August 23rd, she didn't have any concerns?
I said from August 23rd to the day that we picked up that the baby was removed. From August 23rd, 2024 to the day that the baby was removed.
What was the rest of the question?
Do you believe that there was a continuous danger to the physical health or safety of this child?
I'll allow it.
Yes.
And what is that yes based on?
Based on my observations of Miss Pringle on the night of the 23rd of August, her communication to me that she would have co-slept with Nova, my physical observation when she left Nova on the couch by herself while answering the door, and the threats made by Mr. Bird.
I want to make
And-
sure that I want to make sure just really fast, and that I'm understanding what your concerns are for immediate danger. Can you just go through them one more time? I heard the co-sleeping, the couch, and the threats from Mr. Bird. Is that right?
Yes. Yes.
As well as Brittany's demeanor?
Her demeanor.
Did her demeanor indicate to the department that she may still be continuing with substance abuse?
She was sent for testing.
I'm
And
sorry? What did you say?
She was sent for testing.
Okay.
and those results came back on the UA, correct?
Correct.
And the lab tested the wrong substance, so those came back as negative for bath salts, correct?
Correct.
And a hair follicle was also completed at that time, which came back as negative for all drugs. However, methadone was not tested, correct?
Objection. Assumes facts not in evidence, hearsay, cause for speculation.
This information has already been brought out previously through witnesses.
Which part of the there was a lot of information that was part of that question. That the UA was negative for bath salts and the hair follicle was negative for bath salts.
The hair follicle.
I mean,
Let me
the hair
rephrase the
follicle was
question.
just negative, but not tested for methadone. Which are you objecting? You said hearsay, Miss Duff?
Yes, I am, because I don't believe that the hair follicle results were back when we began this hearing on Monday. And the only one that they had seen were the bath salts. So
It was the other way around, Miss Duff. We received the UA, not the UA, sorry. We received the hair follicle prior to Jorge's testimony, and he testified that those results were negative. And then we received the bath salts results, I guess, over the weekend or last Friday, which I informed both parties on Monday.
Okay, go on to the next question. She was negative.
Okay. Upon reviewing these lab results, UAs from lab results, have the methadone numbers, just as what's reported on the reports, have the numbers been consistent?
No.
objection, cause for
Objection.
speculation.
And sustained.
Does the department believe that there was a need for removing Novalee?
Yes.
And what efforts were made to prevent or eliminate the need for removal?
We reached out to.
Objection calls for speculation unless it's within her personal knowledge.
Only what you did,
I reached out.
Ms. Allen. Otherwise, Mr. Galicia would have testified to it.
I would have reached out to Miss Pereira, Jennifer Pereira.
You
She's
keep saying
Brittany's-
I would have, like you did. I think.
I did.
Okay.
Okay. I reached out
Okay.
I reached out to Ms. Pereira and I would have communicated the concerns the department shared.
Okay.
Okay.
And was she able to help out with the situation to avoid the baby being removed?
No, she was
Objection
not.
calls for speculation, and can we get a timeline on when this call would have happened?
The call occurred on the, what day was the removal? The day of the removal.
Okay. And on the day of the removal, you spoke with Miss Pura, correct?
Yes, I did.
Okay.
Hey, let me make a
And-
ruling on Miss Osina's objection. The objection was to speculation that is sustained. Go ahead with your next question.
Were you informed whether Miss Pura could be a possible, could it possibly help out Miss Pringle's situation?
She could not assist.
Okay.
Objection, okay. Non-responsive to the question. I believe that was yes or no.
I think it's a form of it. It's fine. Go ahead. Next question.
Okay. Why does the department believe that there was a need for removal of Novalee?
Objection asked and answered.
Sustained.
Okay. The child was removed about, let's see, I'm sorry, I gotta get my own calendar out real quick. The child was removed eventually on August 29th, 2024, correct?
Correct.
And that was after receiving a court order for that removal?
Yes,
And where was the child placed?
with foster parents.
And have you seen the child with these foster parents?
Yes, I have.
Do you believe that they are meeting her emotional and physical needs?
Objection to relevance to the removal of the child.
Sustained.
Since the removal, have you discovered anything else regarding Miss Pringle and Novalee?
Again, objection to the relevance. The purpose of the adversary hearing is to determine whether the removal was appropriate.
No, I disagree. I think the affidavit allowed the removal. The purpose of the adversary, if I could argue, Your Honor, is to determine if continuing to remove is appropriate. I don't know if I said that properly.
I'll allow it.
Has this investigation and case involving Novalee and Miss Pringle, have you received more information from this incident, from this pickup?
Yes.
What information did you receive?
Objection calls for hearsay.
It's sustained.
Who did you receive this information?
If it's an outcry or some sort of
Well, the
outcry.
only Novalee can make the outcry.
No, you're right. I withdraw.
Who did you receive this additional information from?
Can I answer?
Yes, you can just answer who.
Oh, Dr. Webb.
Dr. Webb. And is Dr. Webb the child's pediatrician?
Yes.
And the child was seen by Dr. Webb on August 29, 2024 and September 5th, 2024?
Yes.
Are you a custodian of records for CPS?
Yes.
I'm going to show you what's been marked as Petitioner's Exhibit 2. Are you familiar with these records?
Does everybody else have a copy of P2?
Yes, Your Honor. I emailed it to everybody, including Ms. Ramirez this morning. And I've showed them those documents on Monday as well. Are you familiar with these records?
Yes, I am.
Are these records kept in the regular course of business for CPS?
Yes.
Is it the regular practice of CPS's activity to make these records and I'm sorry? Oh, is it practice of CPS to make records and to keep these records on each child that they are that is in their care?
Yes, we do.
Okay. And did a representative of CPS make these records before you?
Yes.
Was it done at or near the time or reasonably soon after these records were made?
Yes, it did.
Okay. Are these records the exact duplicates of the originals?
Yes, they are.
At this time, Your Honor, petitioner moves to admit Petitioner's Exhibit 2.
Your Honor, I object because I believe that these records are actually filled out by someone other than Ms. Stacy, Ms. Elaine, and even though they're DFPS records, they also include other records that are not DFPS's records.
And Your Honor, my response to that is I did ask if the representative of CPS made these records, and I also stated, are these records a part of CPS's records as part of a part of their file records? So as a custodian of these records, she has been able to rely on these records in care for this child.
Your Honor, but I'm objecting because I believe these records are actually filled out by the caregiver and by the provider, and it also includes part of the provider's records in here as well, meaning Dr.
Okay, Ms. Ramirez, can you please forward me P2?
Yes.
I don't have as much of a problem with the part that is DFPS, but it doesn't appear that I see any DFPS personnel signature on here. So it's like they took someone else's records and included them.
Page 1, it shows that Jorge is the one that completed the document, who is a representative of CPS. And these records are the person who made the record does not have to be the one presenting the records. As a custodian of these records, Miss Allen has access to these records that are identifying them as her business records.
Is that Jorge's signature on page 1?
That's his name printed on it.
Okay.
These records are kept as a course of business of CPS.
And if we go to page 9, I don't see Jorge's signature anywhere on this document. Nor can you identify who from the department would have prepared this document.
Just a minute.
There's no place, it shows as the provider information, the doctor's signature and the caregiver's signature. I'm trying to understand
Page
why.
5.
Page 5 or page 9?
Just a
Sorry,
moment,
can you-
it's scanning. The Outlook is scanning the attachment for safety.
Oh, okay. Oh.
Oh, sorry, it's only giving me a preview. Give me just a moment. Here we go. All right. Here's my question. Yeah, a doctor had to have filled this information out.
I mean, legally, Your Honor, there should be no legal objection as to the entry of this document, as this is a part of CPS's records.
But I don't think CPS's records can be overcome.
I don't think that
that's within these records.
Here's the issue, is that the purpose of there's other medical records that are contained within this document that are not complete medical records. And the custodian of records for those records would be certifying that this is a complete and accurate representation of these records. Miss Allen cannot do that.
Well, Judge, but she's
She does
relying
not
on them.
have those. And
There's no reason for her to think they're not trustworthy. I mean, they're part of her ordinary records. They're part of her file. She's relying on them to use them. There's no indicia that they're not trustworthy. She's using that information to carry the position forward that they have that nobly should stay in care.
Your Honor, I
it
would
doesn't make
echo.
them trustworthy, and that doesn't make them a complete source of records. I mean,
Well, but no,
they
I
can
didn't
rely
hear
on
the
anything.
objection. I didn't hear the objection that there was any optional completeness, and I didn't hear a hearsay objection until just a few seconds ago.
Well,
I mean,
even within the authentication, I think that was the objection. And
I didn't hear that as an objection, Your Honor.
Well, she's authenticating them as part of her own file, and that's what she uses in order to be able to make and give testimony here today.
here's my question, you all. You have Dr. Webb testifying next Tuesday. Why don't you just get it through the proper witness?
Which is the plan, Your Honor, but she's trying to lay the predicate because her testimony also needs to be considered credible and where she's coming from with where she's at today before this court.
There might be portions of, I've only opened the first part of P2, which are medical records that I am assuming, give me a second here. No,
I could probably get this one.
So, Your Honor, from what I'm understanding, the whole document of P2 is,
give me a moment here. Oh, okay, there's more than one exhibit on this thing.
If I may, Your Honor, I think our objection to this is if she's making an entire judgment as to the child's care off of this, it is incomplete. If she is just stating she reviewed this and is just stating what she read from this, and that's what she's basing something on, then that's one thing. But I think Dr. Webb is going to be the best one to testify about what his opinion was. I do not see any opinions in here. I don't see any signatures other than his.
and Your Honor, I'm not asking about his opinion as to, from the medical perspective, I'm trying to bring this evidence in as to show CPS's actions and concerns that they have.
But I believe the question that started this whole line of trying to bring this exhibit in was what the department has found out since the removal has occurred, why the removal should continue. So
Correct.
I just, I'll go ahead and allow y'all to admit it. I don't see anything significant in those records.
Okay. And for P2, Miss Allen, this was when the child was seen on August 29, 2024.
That's correct.
That was the day after the removal?
Yes, please.
Okay. And the doctor did a thorough examination of the child, including addressing the concerns that Miss Pringle had told the department about regarding the baby, correct?
That is correct.
I'm going
And
to object, Your Honor, if it's going to call for speculation unless she was present at the appointment.
Not sustained.
which part of it was sustained, Your Honor?
The speculation about what the doctor did?
Okay.
And we were on the next question.
I didn't even finish asking my question, but okay. Miss Allen, once the doctor observed the child, is there documentation in your records that you were able to review to see how that appointment went?
Yes.
Okay. Based on the review of your records, at that doctor's appointment, were Miss Pringle's concerns regarding the baby addressed?
Yes.
And the concerns that Miss Pringle had that you read from your review of the records were that the baby was suffering from some sort of epilepsy
Yes.
and foaming at the mouth, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Upon reviewing your records further, from that date of the visit, was there a diagnosis made that you reviewed in your records?
Yes.
And what was the diagnosis that the doctor made based on what you reviewed in your records?
Novalee does not suffer from epilepsy.
And what did the doctor diagnose her from based on your records review?
Steph said something.
I'm sorry?
Objection. The first one was she was trying to make a diagnosis of Novalee off of an incomplete set of doctor's records.
No, Your Honor, I said what?
Off speculation.
I said review of the documents in your file. Was there a diagnosis stated?
And the answer was yes.
Yes.
What is the next question?
Upon review of your records, what was the diagnosis that was stated?
Novalee does not suffer from epilepsy.
Objection.
And-
Speculation.
I'm sorry, calls for speculation.
Speculation.
That's sustained.
based on the review of your records, did it diagnose Novalee with acid reflux?
Yes, it did.
And was she prescribed medication for that?
Yes, she was.
And based on the review of your records, was the neurology appointment canceled due to the fact that the doctor
Objection
believed?
calls for hearsay,
Sustained.
unless he's in.
Was her neurology appointment canceled after this visit?
Yes,
And was that based on your records at the discretion of the doctor?
yes.
Okay. Miss Allen, I am showing you what's been marked as Petitioner's Exhibit 3. Are you the custodian of records for CPS of this file?
Yes, I am.
Were the records kept in the regular course of business of CPS?
Yes, it is.
Is it the regular practice of CPS to make these records and keep them per child?
Yes, that's an okay.
And did a representative of CPS make these records regarding the events that occurred?
Yes,
And did the representative CPS who made the entries have actual knowledge of the event?
yes,
Are these records exact duplicates of the originals?
yes, they are.
At this time, petitioner moves to admit Petitioner's Exhibit 3 into evidence.
I'm going to object to this Petitioner's Exhibit 3 because these are incomplete records. I believe the prior statement was that the records were produced by Mr. Galicia, who's not here. Furthermore, these records indicate a differing signature block than what was previously presented in Petitioner's Exhibit 2 as DFPS staff or caregiver, and there's no way to verify who made these records.
May I respond, Your Honor?
Let me look at P3. Also, too, I would like to encourage you to ask your most relevant questions because we're only hearing Miss Allen until 3. It's been 1 hour. So I'm sure that Miss Osina is going to have plenty of questions, and Miss Ortiz Tang. P3 is admitted.
I'm sorry, Your Honor?
Okay.
And that P3 was a visit of Novalee on September 5th, 2024.
Yes, it was.
And it was her 2-month checkup.
Yes,
And based on the review of your records, was there any additional concerns of Novalee suffering from epilepsy or seizures?
No.
And based on your records, the same medication for acid reflux was to be
That's correct.
continued?
yes.
Okay. So based on and you've actually had a conversation with Dr. Webb?
Here's Mrs. Aid.
Okay. And based on your conversation with the doctor's office, does the department have any concerns about Novalee suffering from seizures or epilepsies?
No, not at this point.
So do you know why Miss Pringle is telling CPS that Novalee has seizures and epilepsy?
I can't speak to her state of mind.
Okay. Even if Novalee was having seizures and has epilepsy, would co-sleeping be something safe for the child?
No,
Do you believe it's in the best interest of this child for the agency to be named temporary managing conservator of this child?
yes, I do.
Why?
Because of the safety concerns with regards to the co-sleeping, Miss Pringle's use of substances, her history of substances, the current negative testing of drugs, even though she's on the methadone treatment, as well as the threats made to Miss Pringle and the kids from Mr. Bird.
One more subject matter. On Monday, on Tuesday, September 17th, was Miss Pringle sent for a hair follicle at National Screening Center by CPS. Tuesday, September 17th. I'm so sorry. Oh my goodness. Tuesday, September 17, 2024, was Miss Pringle sent to National Screening to submit to a hair follicle?
Yes, she was.
And was that request done for a segmented hair follicle test specifically for methadone?
Yes, it was.
And has the department received that test results back yet?
No, we haven't received it.
Are we asking the court to wait for those results to come back before making a final decision?
Yes, if it pleases the court.
And do you believe it would indicate that Ms. Pringle has not been maintaining her methadone treatment?
We have waiting
Objection causes
results.
speculation.
Sustained.
Pass the witness.
Okay, Miss Allen. Since we were on the topic of the medical records, do you recall Miss Pringle's testimony that she took Nova to the doctor several times
Yes,
in
she
her
did.
short first 7 weeks?
Yes.
And how many times and how many medical records did you review?
The two.
Just the two, not the 5 to 6 others?
No, actually, as well as two of Miss Pringle's, the 27th to the 25th of July.
Okay.
I
And did
received a
she
copy
send
of
you
that.
those records herself?
No, I got it from the doctor's office.
Okay. Did you review the hospital records?
No, I did not get possession of the hospital records.
But these two well-checked records are enough, in your opinion.
That is what I have
to
in my
justify your
possession.
opinion.
That is what I have in my possession.
Could I get those dates? I apologize. I heard the 22nd and the 27th.
The 25th, I believe it was.
Okay.
The 25th of August, Miss Allen?
No, I have two CPS records, and I'm talking about the records from Miss Pringle as well.
Okay.
Okay, so she provided you those records?
No, I reached out to the doctor's office and I got a copy of those records.
But those are not part of evidence today.
No.
I want to clarify some of this timeline because I'm a little bit confused, so just bear with me. What time did you get to Miss Pringle's house?
Around 9 p.m.
Okay. And how do you know what time it was?
Because I would have finished my visit at 7, and it takes me approximately an hour to get to Brittany's house.
Okay. And what time did you receive the message from Mr. Williamson that you testified to earlier?
It was after 7 because I checked my phone after I finished my visit at 7.
Okay. Do you recall that Mr. Williamson said that the visit occurred around 8:30?
Yes.
Your Honor, that misstates the evidence because he corrected himself with a little help from the court as to the correct times.
Sustained.
Okay. When did Miss Pringle first contact you on the day of the 23rd?
It was early in the morning when she asked to who would be dropping off Layla, if I would be.
Okay. Did she also ask you or tell you that she wanted to talk to you?
Yes, she did.
And what was your response to her?
I told her that I was going to drop off Layla. However, I was called into an important meeting, so I won't be able to drop off Layla, but we could discuss whatever she had to discuss later on.
Okay. And did you call her back later that day?
I did not call her back later that day.
Okay. When you arrived at her house around 9 o'clock, did you attempt to make a phone call to her?
No, I did not.
Why not?
The lights were on, so I assumed she was home, so I knocked on the door.
Okay. What's the latest you've ever stopped at her house before?
I do drive-bys quite often.
My question, Miss Allen, is what's the latest you have been inside of her house before?
Prior to the removal, it would have been, I would say, around 6 o'clock.
Okay. In your opinion, would it be reasonable for Miss Pringle to expect somebody at her door at 9 o'clock at night?
I can't speak to that.
Okay. Now, you said that she was holding Nova in one hand and holding a knife in another. How did
Correct.
she open the door?
I could only assume I wasn't on the other side of the door. That she had Nova in this hand and a knife, and she opened the door with the knife.
Okay. And you said that Nova was awake when you answered the door.
Yes, she
correct?
was.
Was she crying?
She was not crying.
Did she appear dirty?
I didn't check her diaper.
Did she appear disheveled at all?
No, she had on a onesie and her bright gray eyes.
And how long did you spend inside of the house with Brittany?
Approximately an hour.
Okay. So you arrived at the house about 9 o'clock. I believe earlier you said you knocked about 5 to 6 times. How long did it take Brittany to answer the door?
I'd say probably like a 2 or 3 minutes.
Okay. And then you were in the house for an hour. What time did you call your supervisor?
I will have to go back to my phone to check.
Do you need to look at the affidavit to refresh your memory?
Sure.
Okay. On page 2, after I believe it's the second paragraph, if you want to read through that.
Under facts necessitating removal.
No, paragraph starting, I'm sorry, this would be the third page. The paragraph that's starting as caseworker continued.
Mhm.
You just read through that and then I'll re-ask my question. Let me know when you're ready.
Mhm.
Okay, so you got to her house around 9 o'clock. Took her a couple of minutes to answer the door.
Mhm.
What time did you call your supervisor?
It would be minutes to 10.
Okay. What time did you call in an intake?
9:50.
Okay, so in that amount of time, you were able to talk with Miss Pringle and observe her
Yes.
demeanor.
Yes.
You checked on Layla.
Yes.
Did you check on her a second time before exiting the house?
Yes,
that
I
day?
did. Yes, I did.
Okay. Okay. And then you were staffing with your supervisor before 10 o'clock
Mhm.
and called in the intake at 9:50.
Yes.
Okay. How long did you spend face to face with Miss Pringle?
Within an hour.
And do you under an hour?
It would be under an hour.
Okay. And you said you observed her swaying, slurring her speech, and blinking heavily.
Yes.
And you've observed her like that once before,
Yes.
December of 2023. What was the department's opinion of Miss Pringle's demeanor in December of 2023 when you first observed her that way?
I believe she was under the influence of something.
Okay. And after that time, it was still the department's goal in the previous case to reunite Layla with Miss Pringle, was it not?
Correct.
Okay. What was different about the August 23rd's evening versus December 2023?
First of all, the time of day was different. It was early in the morning when I met Miss Pringle on December of 2023. On August 2023, it was late at night.
Okay. Do you recall Miss Pringle testifying that she had been asleep when you knocked on the door?
Yes, I heard that.
And do you think, let's check that. Once you left the first time, when you went to go speak with your supervisor and call in the intake, how long were you out of the house at that point?
I would say about 10 minutes.
Okay. And then you went in to get Layla.
Yes.
How long were you out? How long were you in the house when you removed Layla?
About 5 minutes or less.
Okay. So if you were in the house for under an hour the first time and less than 5 minutes when you removed Layla, that was enough of an observation for you to be concerned.
Yes, I have known Miss Pringle for over a year and a half at this point in time.
Okay. But you didn't try to take Nova with you?
No, I have no powers to remove Nova.
Okay. Did you personally call law enforcement?
No, I called a statewide intake as a responsibility, as a reporter, and I think I discharged my duty by doing that because of my
Okay.
concerns for Nova.
Okay. Did you ask Miss Pringle if you could spend some more time in the house just to make sure everything was okay?
No, I did not.
Okay. And I believe you said earlier that you were still there when the investigator showed up. What time did he show up?
He showed up around 11:30.
Okay. So at that point, Miss Pringle and Nova had been alone in the house together for about an hour and a half?
Correct.
Okay. She didn't answer the door when you went to knock.
No, she did not.
How many times did you try to call her to wake her up?
I called once.
Okay. And she didn't answer that call?
No, she did not.
And approximately what time was that?
That was minutes to 12, midnight.
Okay. And what did you do after making that call when she did not answer?
We stayed outside a bit, discussed the case, and then I went back to my vehicle.
And left without Nova, correct?
Correct.
And at that point, the investigator hadn't seen Nova yet?
I don't think so.
But you were there with him, right?
Mhm. Mhm.
And he hadn't seen her.
Correct.
Okay. And you were not there when and if law enforcement showed up?
Objection asked and answered.
Okay.
Oh, I don't remember that, but okay.
Do you have any knowledge of personal knowledge if law enforcement showed up?
I'm not aware.
Now, when Miss Pringle allegedly admitted to co-sleeping, did you ask her what co-sleeping means to her?
No, I did not.
Okay. Did you observe, what did you observe about the couch in the living room?
It's a L-shaped couch. There are some cushions on it, and it's against the wall.
Was there anything on the couch?
Yes, the cushions.
Okay. Was there a blanket and a pillow?
I don't recall.
Okay. Do you recall Miss Pringle's testimony saying that she slept in the living room in case Layla got scared, so
I
she would
heard
know where
that.
to find her? Okay.
I heard that.
Was the bassinet also directly next to the couch?
It's to the side of the couch next to the television on the right-hand side.
Did the bassinet appear to have been used?
Yes, there were blankets in it.
Okay. Has Miss Pringle ever told you where Nova usually sleeps when Layla's not there for a visit?
Do not recall.
Okay. Okay, give me 1 second. How many drug tests has the department sent Miss Pringle to since August 23rd?
We are 19th. We usually send them for about twice a month, so I think probably like 3 or 4 at this point in time since the 23rd.
Okay. And how many hair follicles have occurred?
I believe 2.
Okay. Do you know if the department has actually paid for the methadone testing for the hair follicle?
Objection relevance.
I believe.
I'm not too sure.
And I believe earlier you said that Brittany likes to talk a lot, right?
She does.
Okay. Has she kept you informed about what's going on in Nova's life,
Yes, she has.
even though there was not an active case until August 28th with Nova?
That's correct, yes.
Okay. Was prior to August 23rd, you didn't personally have any concerns about Nova's safety?
No, when I came back from leave, Miss Pringle would have given me the full update. She had the baby and everything, you know. Like I said, we have a good relationship. So she brought me up to speed of everything I'd missed while I was out for those 3 months.
Okay. And the goal in Layla's case prior to this incident or supposed incident was for Miss Pringle to be reunified. Okay.
Correct.
And so what is it about this particular incident that has required removal without a UA or hair follicle testing positive for methadone? Or excuse me, for higher levels that the department's concerned about.
Okay. So as I indicated before, 1, the threats made by Mr. Bird. I had asked Miss Pringle if she could have secured accommodation at her mom's house. She indicated Miss Pura lives on the other side of town. Mr. Bird does not know where that is. In my opinion, had she moved there or visited her mom with the kids, we may have considered that a safe haven. She indicated to me that is not an option. Secondly, at that point in time on the Friday night with the slurring and the closing of the eyes, I was under the opinion that maybe she was under the influence of something.
Okay, but it's your opinion that because of a maybe that this child should be removed from her mother.
Objection to the
Objection,
form of the question?
misstates the witness's testimony.
Overruled.
And number 3,
Did you answer the question? I want to hear the answers to that.
okay, sorry.
Is it your opinion that because of a maybe that this child should be removed from her mother?
It's more than just a maybe. It's a serious concern.
Tell me a little bit. Why is that serious? Tell me why, in your opinion, that's serious.
The co-sleeping.
Okay,
The-
but we don't know what Ms. Pringle's opinion of co-sleeping is. Correct? Did you ask her what co-sleeping means to her?
No,
Were you informed of this co-sleeping from Ms. Pringle or from a third party?
Miss Pringle, as well as a third party.
You said earlier that you didn't feel like Ms. Pringle's home was as clean as it could be because she's a newborn mom. Can you give us a little bit more context to that?
Okay. So Miss Pringle's house consists of a 2-bedroom house. There is also a kitchen area, a dining room area, and a living room area. Upon entering the house, there is a big flat screen TV to your right-hand side, and Miss Pringle usually burns some incense there. Nova's bassinet is closer to the wall, further on the right-hand side. To the left-hand side, there is a playpen, and in that playpen, there's filled with toys and other baby stuff. In the middle of the living room, there's a glass table that usually has some sort of apparatus. It usually has energy drink because Miss Pringle likes her energy drinks. And also there is a baby gate that is not fastened. And this is one of the things I would have discussed with Miss Pringle once we started the reintroducing Layla back to the home. She indicated that, she needed to get somebody out there to get them into the wall. So the baby gate is actually loose, so you could actually push it down. Miss Pringle's house, there's a lot of stuff there. She is working on getting a lot of stuff out of the house. Prior to us reintroducing Layla to the house, there was a lot of stuff, and I have to congratulate her. She did remove a lot of this stuff. In previous discussions with her, she indicated as a child she didn't have a lot. So therefore, her form of loving her kids was by overcompensating and providing them with anything that she could afford.
Okay, about providing them for what she can afford. In your visit to Ms. Pringle's house in the last, let's say, 3 months, so we can limit it a time frame, did she appear to have everything that Layla needed?
Objection as to relevance. We're not talking about Layla. We're talking about the emergency removal for this child.
I will strike that.
Overruled. It's overruled.
She would have had, yes, she has food, she has diapers, she has clothes, she has a bed.
Okay. And the times that you've been in the house since Nova was born, since you've come back July 25th, did Ms. Pringle have everything that Nova would need?
Yes.
Okay. So are there any safety concerns with Ms. Pringle's home with regard to Nova?
The burning of the incense, the glass table, it's kind of sharp. And with Nova and Layla
Okay.
walking around, I would have discussed these things with Brittany.
Okay. But prior to August 23rd, the department had no concerns with Nova.
No.
I'll pass the witness.
Ms. Duff?
Thank you, Your Honor. In looking at these doctor's records, on page, well,
Which one? P1 or P3?
let's start on P2, I believe is the first one.
Mhm.
That's the one on
829?
the 29th.
Mhm.
That's the day after she was removed, correct?
Correct.
If you scroll down to page 6, it says she was diagnosed with reflux, correct?
Mhm.
And after that it's a 3-day placement. Is that correct?
Mhm.
Okay, it really wasn't a 3-day placement, it was a 1-day placement, correct?
Objection as to the form of the question.
Nova had just
overruled.
been in her
It's
placement.
overruled.
Okay. It was just a one-day placement. Correct?
Correct. At that point in time, yes.
Okay. And now this was a doctor who Ms. Pringle had been taking Nova to visit, correct?
Correct.
And was this the first time that he noted reflux?
I could only speak on the records I have before me.
Okay. But Ms. Pringle had been taking him to the doctor, or, I'm sorry, her to the doctor, correct?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. So she was concerned that there was something wrong.
Yes.
Okay. And there was something wrong, right?
Yes.
Okay. So then let's go to P3. Oh, I'm sorry. Let's stay on that one. On page 8, it says cancel the UT neurology appointment, correct?
Yes.
All right. So is this the doctor that recommended she go for a neurology appointment?
Yes.
Okay. So Ms. Pringle is actually following what the doctor said to do with regard to what her symptoms were, correct?
Objection as to speculation.
Well, she made the neurology appointment.
I think I'm going to object because I think Ms. Pringle's testimony was that was recommended when she was in
doctor.
Texas Children's. I'm going to misstate facts before the court. I think her testimony was that was made during.
That's sustained.
Okay, thank you, Judge.
There was a neurology appointment made, is that correct?
By the department? No.
I'm just asking. There's a neurology appointment referenced on page 8.
Yes. And it was referenced to be canceled.
Okay. And the cancellation was due to Dr. Webb's recommendations.
Yes.
Okay. Now, you also stated that you have 2 other sets of medical records from Dr. Webb's office. Is that correct?
Yes.
Where are their records and all these records that CPS keeps?
I did not provide it in this case.
Okay. So did you not think that some of those other records might contain some information that the court might need?
Not necessarily.
Okay.
And I'm not the custodian of it.
I'm sorry, what?
I'm not the custodian of those records.
You didn't
For
have-
clarification, are we talking about all of the records from
No,
the
this-
doctor's office?
No, she referenced specifically 2 other sets of
2 other
medical
sets of records.
that she has, but
Mhm.
she doesn't
That
have
came
them.
from Miss Pringle. I think that
No, she says she got them from the doctor's office.
No one else have the copy of that. That's what I was doing. My
No one else
research on-
has what?
I was doing some follow-up on Nova, and the doctor office provided me with a copy of that record. So that's the record I was reviewing with the doctor. This
But
is
you-
prior to the removal.
And you did not put those in DFPS's records.
No.
Okay. Why did you not put those records in Nova's file after you took her into custody?
It wasn't an official request, first of all. I was simply following up on the allegations that Nova could be epileptic.
Okay.
So I was looking into that because Ms. Pringles would have communicated to me that she believes Nova is epileptic.
Okay. But Ms. Pringle is not a doctor, correct?
And neither am I.
Okay. But she was taking Nova to a doctor to try to find out what was wrong with Nova.
Objection asked and answered.
And isn't that to be expected of a young mother?
Overruled.
Okay, she was taking Nova to be to see a doctor to see what was wrong with her. Is that correct?
Correct.
And that's expected of a newborn's mothers. Is that correct?
I would hope of any parent.
Okay. So Ms. Pringle was doing what she needed to do.
Mhm.
Okay.
objection calls for speculation in full. It's a very summary statement. Conclusory.
Overruled.
Okay, objection to the form.
Overruled.
She answered it, I believe.
Mhm.
How often have you observed Miss Pringle late at night?
Not very often.
Okay.
Hmm.
In your experience, even just in your own experience, do people's demeanors change when they get really tired?
Objection calls for speculation.
I said in her experience and including her own.
Objection relevance of her own demeanor and speculation as to other people's demeanor.
Relevance is sustained.
Did you see me sitting in court on Monday after lunch?
Objection sidebar argumentative.
No, I'm
Relevance.
Overruled.
Relevance.
That's sustained.
Okay. Have you ever seen Miss Pringle when she was tired?
Yes, I have.
Okay. Do her eyes kind of droop?
She tells me she's tired and I see it in her face.
Okay. So her demeanor changes when she gets tired, is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. But this is the first time you had woken her up late at night, is that correct?
I don't know that I woke up.
Okay.
Objection is to misstatement of the evidence.
This is the first.
That's overruled.
Objection misstates Miss Allen's testimony of her.
Well, she said that she didn't know, so. It's okay. Let's go on.
You were not at these doctor's appointments, correct?
No.
Okay. I'll pass the witness, Your Honor.
Miss Ortiz-Tang?
Judge, 30 seconds while I run to a different room because I'm working from home
Okay.
and the dog started barking.
Okay.
Okay. Miss Allen, your testimony is that you saw this mom many occasions, many a time, correct?
Correct.
And then you talked about with your cross-examination with Miss Osina, how this was comparable to the incident on December the 23rd, correct?
Correct.
Okay. And the consequence of the visit or what you saw on December the 23rd was to reduce or increase mom's level of supervision again with Layla, correct?
That's correct.
Right. And so that is actually what you're trying to do here today, correct?
Yes, the goals remain the same.
And you're trying to ensure that the department is consistent actually with what they did December 23rd and now what they're doing now, correct?
Correct.
So in between, there was some improvement by mom or CMID improvement by mom, correct?
Correct.
So we're talking about 7 months difference, correct?
Correct.
And one would expect that in 7 months, mom would understand that going back to using or overusing methadone would be a concern, correct?
Correct.
So do you believe that the removal or the attempted removal that you're engaging in today or continuing this removal is actually consistent with what the department does?
That is correct.
Okay, so let's back up for a second here. You testified that you witnessed slurring, drooping and closing of the eyes, correct?
Yes.
And the moment that you saw that, you were concerned, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And so you hadn't seen Brittany like that for 8 months, fair?
Since last year.
Yeah. And 8 months ago when that happened, you tried to send her for a drug test and she wouldn't do it, would she?
That's correct.
And it took probably about a month before you got that drug test taken, didn't you?
Yeah, it took a while.
Yeah, let's talk about that for a second. So You
Objection,
went back to the
relevance,
door
Your
and
Honor.
you knocked on it and there was no further answer, correct? Can
Yes.
y'all hear me?
Mm-hmm.
So let's talk about that. You got no cooperation from Brittany December of 2023,
Oh, I
correct?
thought we were talking about August 2023, whenever you said you went back to the door.
Judge, they opened the door to December in their, just communication with Miss Eileen, so I'm making comparisons. I think it's relevant.
Never brought up December 2023.
Absolutely brought up by Miss Osina.
The department brought up December 2023, mentioning that there were
Let's go
two
forward.
instances that she has seen this.
All right.
And the door has
So
been
there's,
opened.
The door has been opened.
I said go
So-
forward, please.
Okay, thank you, Judge. So you had no cooperation from this mom and could not get a drug test in December of 2023 until January, correct?
That's correct.
How many days did it take for you to get cooperation from Brittany, or if you know, from George or Jorge?
Jorge.
Jorge's testimony. It took 5 days before he was able to sit down and talk to this mom, correct?
Objection misstates the
That's sustained.
previous testimony.
That's sustained.
What? True or not true that the child was seen by you guys on Friday, December the 23rd?
True.
And true or not true that his testimony was that he didn't see her again or was not able to see the child or Miss Pringle on, I think it was August the 27th.
Objection misstates the earlier testimony. Mr.
Sustained.
Galicia testified.
You saw her the next day at 5.
Following day, yeah.
Yes.
Okay, well, true or true
She
not, she
called
was
him
not
at 11 a.m.
Sorry, I went running up the stairs and I lost my page.
That's okay.
All right. Either way, there was no cooperation on the same evening, correct?
Correct.
And it wasn't until
Which
5 o'clock the next
objection,
day.
which is you talking about? I'm confused.
Can you make sure, because since you're comparing the 2 months that before you ask the question, you specify if you're talking about August or December?
Sure, will do.
Okay.
In August, there was no cooperation for several hours after the incident, correct?
Correct.
Objection, mistakes evidence.
It's overruled.
Okay. And so to your knowledge and from the testimony from Mr.
Jorge.
Jeffrey. No, I'm now Mr. Jeffries. Your understanding is the appearance of being intoxicated or under the influence can pass pretty quickly, can it not?
Yes.
Objection, cause for speculation.
It's sustained.
We're just reiterating the testimony, Judge, that she heard her understanding from what she heard from Mr. Jeffries.
No, objection, Your Honor, she's leading, but she's also misstating what.
The leading is sustained.
I'm on cross-examination, Your Honor.
But she's not adverse to you.
But either way, I'm on
Aligned.
cross-examination.
Continue, please.
I don't have a lot of time. I'm just trying to get it out there quickly. So
Go ahead. And I'm not going to cut you off exactly at 3. I know you're trying your best.
Okay, thank you. Now, in regards to those medical records that were before you, the baby weighed 9 pounds, 15.4 ounces, correct? In the one on August the 29th, correct?
29? Yes.
And then the baby weighed 10 pounds, 2.3 ounces in the next record on September the 5th, correct?
That's correct.
All right. And just of note, there was a little bit of growth in those 6 days. Is that fair? In
Yeah.
her weight? Okay. And then with regard to Layla on the couch, was there anything on the couch? I think was the question. Did you know
Nova on the
anything?
couch, you mean?
Sleeping? There was a question by, I think, Miss Osina. Was there anything on the couch that you saw? Pillows, bedding, anything like that?
I recall seeing cushions.
Okay. And with regard to, did you sit on the couch at all?
No, I did not.
Okay. Did Miss
Like-
Ringle sit on the couch at all while you were there?
No, she did not.
Okay. So the whole time you all were just kind of standing there with the babies or the
Correct.
baby and Layla was sleeping in the other room?
Yes.
Okay. In the time that you've been the caseworker for Novaline, have you visited or seen her in the foster parents' home?
Yes, I have.
When was the first time did you put Novaline into this foster home on one day?
The 28th of
29th?
August. 28th.
Okay. And then when was the next time you saw Novaline?
It was last week. Last week, Thursday?
Objection
Last
relevant, Your
Thursday?
Honor.
Sustained.
And well, I'm asking how the baby's doing. I'm trying to get there. Have you?
We're talking about an adversary hearing and what was happening up till the time the baby was removed, Your Honor.
I agree.
Right. And does the baby look well to you?
Objection
Yes, she
relevant,
does.
Your Honor.
Overruled.
At the time of your placement, what time was it?
It was after 11 at night.
Okay. And at that time, was the baby clean and in good condition?
She was wearing a onesie. She was congested. So we would have gotten from Miss Pringle the suction bulb to remove the mucus from her passageway.
Okay. And you attempted to place the baby with, or we're hoping you could place the baby with her mother, correct?
Yes, Miss Pereira.
Okay. And she's not able to take the child, correct?
No, she's not.
All right. Did you all have and make any efforts to try to reach anyone else to try to avoid a removal?
No, the only other person would have been Mr. Bird. And right now on the sister case, which is Layla's case, he's not supposed to be in a certain feet or distance from Layla. So based on those circumstances, we didn't think it was right to reach out to Mr. Bird for as a placement.
Okay. And so regarding Ashley Bird's testimony, did you hear her testify that she had information that mom had rolled over on Layla?
Yes, I did.
Objection hearsay.
Sustained.
That was based on Miss Bird's testimony, Your Honor. Did you hear information that,
I think that was also sustained during Miss Bird's testimony as well.
I think that was what she said Miss Pringle had said to her.
Correct.
I'm sustaining the objection.
Okay. As far as your work with Miss Pringle, you were the caseworker for this case, correct?
Yes.
You are the caseworker for Layla's case, correct?
Correct.
You are the caseworker or were the caseworker for Mr. Williamson and Hunter and Annabelle, correct?
Correct.
And so when you see someone who has, and this child, Miss Pringle had prior history with Hunter and Annabelle, correct?
Yes.
So when the door is opened with a mom with a knife in her hand, a baby in the other, and you witness slurring and drooping of the eyes, are you actually afraid at that point?
That was one of the reasons. Yes.
Okay. And so you're not allowed to remove children just because of risk, correct?
No.
Did you perceive this to be just a risky moment?
No.
Did you perceive this to be a very scary
Objection. Which moment
reality?
is she talking about, Your Honor?
Opening the door and witnessing the slurring, the knife in the hand, a baby in the other, and
So the 23rd.
the 23rd. Did you perceive that as a scary moment?
Yes.
Okay. And then subsequent to that, do you believe you reacted reasonably under those circumstances?
Yes, I did.
And since then, have you become more concerned?
Yes, I have.
And that is as a result of your communication with Dr. Webb, correct?
That is correct.
All right. And are you aware of more than one allegation coming in regarding this infant?
Yes, I have.
How many allegations at this point?
From Miss Ashley, from Dr. Webb, from Mr. Williamson,
Okay.
and
And one more. This is the one that we're here,
yes,
your own, so to speak.
yes,
Okay. So at this point, there were 4 different concerns and allegations regarding this mom and this children, and as well as Layla for that matter, correct?
correct.
All in the span of about 2 to 3 weeks,
Yes,
and all from different people.
yes, yeah,
Seeing this mom at different times.
yes,
And so when you guys came to this court, you didn't come lightly asking to remove Novely, did you?
no, we did not.
You believe that this mom is abusing her methadone, correct?
Yes,
Somehow, some way, correct?
correct.
You don't know how exactly, but that's what you're afraid of.
Objection
I am-
not answered.
Sustained.
You believe it's in the best interest of this child and for the reasonable care and protection of this child for the department to be granted temporary managing conservatorship, correct?
Yes, I do.
And to put this child back in Miss Brittany Pringle's care prior to getting the segmented methadone hair test to see exactly how much methadone has been used in the last 90 days would be very, very unsafe for Novely, correct?
Correct.
I'll pass the witness.
No questions, Your Honor.
Okay, well, 3 minutes ahead of schedule.
I went as fast as I could.
Yeah, I told you you didn't have to.
I know, but it was,
Okay, so I want to make sure. Give me just a second here. Since I know you won't be back tomorrow, Miss Allen.
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay. So I just want to make sure that I understand what you're saying correctly. Part of the burden of proof here is that reasonable efforts have been made to enable a child to return home, but there is a substantial risk of a continuing danger if the child is returned home. Am I understanding you that a substantial risk is the possibility of co-sleeping, the threats by Mr. Bird, that Miss Pringle, thank you, set the baby down on the couch, and that after Mr. Galicia asked her to take a drug test, that the results of that drug test were negative?
Yes.
Okay. I'm confused. So one is, okay, well, let me ask you this. Do you believe it is possible to put safety measures in place that would remedy the co-sleeping?
It is desirable, possible, I'm not too sure.
But is that something the department would normally do in a safety plan?
Yes.
Okay. similar to as in Layla's case, do you believe that it's possible to put injunctions in place for Nova regarding
Yes.
Mr. Burr? Would
Yes.
that put, well, I guess in joining Mr. Bird and in joining Miss Pringle, would that decrease the concern regarding the threats that Mr. Bird is said to have been making?
Your Honor, with all due respect, I've been on the receiving end of Mr. Bird's anger, and I personally am afraid of my life when it comes to him, Your Honor. And I do not
Okay,
think
so let me ask you this question then. What will the plan be for family reunification with either child, with Miss Bird, with Miss Pringle, as it relates to Mr. Bird? Because that's, do you see what I'm saying? Like,
I understand, Your Honor.
Yes, is out of her life and her children were to be returned to her. What is there has to be a plan in place with regards to Mr. Bird. He cannot just continually be a reason. So
Your Honor.
what would the department suggest then?
Your Honor, may I speak briefly in the fact that there was an injunction made by the court and Miss Pringle did not follow that injunction.
Well,
So
it was
I'm-
made with regards, but here's my question is, what would the department propose? At the end of, imagine y'all get the segmented hair follicle test back and you go, okay, and Bruce Jeffrey says, it looks fine. She's done all of the services. At that point, the segmented hair follicle test looks fine. And the only thing that you have left then is Mr. Bird's threats. What would be the plan other than to rely on her to protect her children?
And that's why we reached out to Miss Pereira.
But she can't live with her mom forever. Right? Like, so what do you see what I'm saying? Like, Mr. Bird can continue to be a threat for the next 18 years of these children's lives. Is the suggestion by the department that because he continues to make threats against her and her children, that the children shouldn't be returned to her?
No, we're not saying that.
Or that she should forever need to live over at her mom's house because he makes threats? I'm
Well,
trying to figure out like what the plan would be.
Miss Pringle and I did discuss. She said she would be moving next year, but she cannot move right now because it takes a certain period of time before the lease expires. So she indicated to me she would be moving in February, and she would not let Mr. Bird know where her location is because she has to protect the kids at all costs. So that was one of the suggestions that we discussed.
So then is it the department's position then that family reunification with her should not be considered until February 2025 when she can move?
We need some time, Your Honor. We need some time.
Is that y'all's position? It's just, I'm just asking, like, is that y'all's plan? Is that what your thought is they're not safe with her until February 2025?
I can't put a timeline on it, Your Honor. But right now, they are not safe.
What would go into a safety plan with regards to Mr. Bird?
The way I see it, Your Honor, even if we put a restraining order out there for Mr. Bird, at the end of the day, it's going back to what Miss Pringle and Mr. Bird discussed. On the 23rd, Miss Pringle looked me dead in the face and told me she has not.
I understand. What I'm saying is,
Bird.
what I'm saying is one of the department's concerns is related to the threats against that Mr. Bird makes against her and the children.
Yes, Your Honor.
I understand that. What I'm asking is, if you didn't already have TMC of Layla, and this was the thing that was called in for Nova Lee, what would the safety plan say for Mr. Bird? Do you understand what I'm saying? Like, what reasonable effort can the department
make
to mitigate the threat of Mr. Bird and allow for the baby to be with her mom? That's what's required under the law.
Mhm. It's difficult to say, Your Honor.
Okay. With regards to laying the baby down on the couch, how old was she again? A month and a half?
A month and a half at that date.
Okay. And are there measures that can be put in place in a safety plan that would eliminate that concern?
Oh, yes. And Ms. Pringle, at the Layla's initial case, would have communicated that she understood the way she had Layla and now the way she had Nova. I would think she understands that as well, that it poses a danger to these infants.
So the co-sleeping in the couch can be remedied by a safety plan.
Yes, that can
The
be.
concern about Mr. Bird is going to always be a concern. Is that fair?
Correct.
I mean, from now until he were to clean up his life and become like a sober individual. And right?
Yes.
Okay. Is it fair to say, or do you believe? Okay, let me back up for a second. When did Mr. Galicia send Miss Pringle for a drug test?
It was a Monday. So that's the
So
26th.
the next time the facility was open.
Yeah.
Okay. And I realized the hair follicle test that you all received back did not test for methadone, but then it wasn't positive for any other substances either.
Correct.
So if she was, and I honestly have no idea if you use something on Friday, if it would be in your hair follicle on Monday. I don't know. But at least up until that Friday, for the months leading up to that, the department doesn't have any concern that she was using any type of other illegal substances.
Not that we are aware of.
And then well, I guess even if the UA was tested for methadone on Monday, it wouldn't have had Saturdays per Mr. Jeffrey's testimony. Saturdays or Friday or Saturday's usage wouldn't be there anyway.
Nope.
So then what we have to go on for Saturday is what you observed whenever you were there and what Mr. Williamson says he observed for the part of the phone call that he stayed to watch.
Yes.
Right?
Mhm.
So other than calling Mrs. Pura to see if she could be the placement, did y'all talk about any other reasonable efforts that could be made to eliminate these concerns that you outlined in your testimony?
No, Your Honor.
And if the co-sleeping was addressed, again, the threats are always going to be a concern, right? The couch was addressed and she's negative for illegal substances. We don't have a methadone test, so that's kind of an unknown.
And Your Honor, for the
Do
record, I'd
you
like to clarify.
believe- Let me finish first.
Yes, Your Honor.
Please. Do you believe that there is still then a substantial risk of continuing danger in
Yes, I
Mr.
do.
Pringle's home? And what would be that risk then?
Because we are uncertain about the methadone use, Your Honor.
Okay. Here's my concern.
Mm.
Or here's my question, I guess. that was part of the department's investigation. And the department did the department not request the right test? Or did the facility not perform it correctly, if you know?
The facility did not perform correctly, Your Honor.
So you're never going to know the answer to that. Is that because you can't go back and get a UA from August the 23rd?
No, we can't.
As she sits there today, other than speculating that on August the 23rd, she overused her methadone, which I think is what you're suspicious of, right?
Yes.
What is the plan? Because I can't keep her baby away from her based on suspicions. So if everything else can be solved by a safety plan, and we'll never know what her UA would have been on August the 23rd or the 24th, what am I to go on?
Your Honor, I believe you have the evidence of myself. You have the evidence of Ashley Bird. You have the evidence of Mr. Williamson. I'm sure you're going to hear the evidence from CASA. These circumstances are unique in that there is no one clear path as to the reasons that we are concerned, Your Honor. I've been in Ms. Pringle's life for over a year and a half, Your Honor. And personally, I'm going to abide by any court order that this court awards, Your Honor. However, I will not rest likely if anything is to happen to these kids, Your Honor. I have developed a bond with these kids, and I'm sure Ms. Pringle loves her kids. She's a great mother. However, until she is able to get off this methadone, Your Honor, I do not think it is safe for the children to be there, Your Honor.
So that's where I'm confused, I guess, is because the department is not satisfied if she's negative for methadone.
How could you be
And you're
negative
not
if you're
satis-
on?
You're not supposed to be negative.
satisfied.
You're not
She's
supposed to be
Okay,
negative.
but what you just said, Miss Allen, is she's not going to be a safe mom until she's off of the methadone.
And she told me she's coming off.
And so
I think it was a misuse concern in terms of the negative rather than her just being negative.
It's the same as alcohol, Your Honor. It's anybody who overuses or abuses an illegal substance it's still not okay.
I understand, but per Mr. Jeffrey's testimony, she could have a negative depending on if she took it before she tested that day. I don't know any of that information.
Your Honor, Mr. Jeffrey's testimony was that she would be negative, except for the fact that she's on methadone treatment and taking it twice a day. She should never be negative.
I agree.
The negative possibility came into realm was if it was like a once every other day type of use. But Mr.
Okay,
Jeffrey specifically testified that if she is on this methadone treatment for twice a day, she should never test negative. And that testimony came up earlier.
Here's the issue. Is that I have to decide whether there's a substantial risk of harm that cannot be alleviated by reasonable efforts. And to be honest, I don't know what Dr. Webb is going to testify to. I'm assuming that the baby gained weight based on the medical records that have been, that the questions that were asked and the records that were provided. But I'm just not also going to take issue with, from what I understand from the testimony, Ms. Pringle was concerned enough to take her baby to the emergency room. She took her baby to the emergency room. The emergency room doctor admitted the baby to Texas Children's Hospital because that's the only way you can get in, right? The
Correct.
baby stayed for a period of days. I think we can all reasonably assume that during that period of days, the Texas Children's Hospital pediatrician or neurologist or whoever it happens to be was monitoring the baby over the course of that time. Right?
Mhm,
Yes or no?
correct.
Yes.
Yes.
None of the referrals are from Texas Children's Hospital. And at the end of that hospital stay, when the baby was discharged, she was referred to neurology.
Your Honor, that's all speculation based on what Ms. Pringle's testimony. We don't have anything to substantiate this at all. We don't have medical records from Ms. Pringle. We don't have anything to state what Ms. Pringle is telling us.
Have you asked
Dr.
her?
Webb-
Have y'all subpoenaed them?
We don't have the dates that Ms. Pringle has
Well,
supposedly
she
taken this
testified
baby.
to them.
She
And I
testified.
have
No.
asked Ms. Pringle to provide me with those records since the
And
onset. She told
She
me.
testified that she wasn't sure exactly when, but it was sometime after Hurricane Beryl.
Right.
Your Honor, when
They've
this
been trying
case
to narrow
first,
it down.
You all know that you don't need exact
E-
dates to
either
subpoena
way,
those records. But my
we still
point
have-
is,
TCH, we do need specific dates or they won't provide us records.
they have authorization for TCH because we just looked at two sections of them. Texas Children's Hospital records and Texas Children's Pediatric records are within the same system that they have access to.
No,
And the child, I
doctor will
believe, was
testify he
discharged
doesn't
in
have
Dr.
access
Webb's
to the
saw.
hospital records. No, the doctor will testify that he doesn't have access to the hospital records. I'm
But if
sorry.
Dr.
We're
if Dr.
now we're
Webb has
talking
seen
about
the-
stuff that isn't even before the court yet. That witness is scheduled to testify on Tuesday.
So I'm not really sure why we're going into his possible testimony.
because I don't know that it's necessary. I don't know that it's relevant and that it's going to impact my decision. So to take the time out of his schedule on Tuesday to ask him
He's willing to be
testify,
here, Judge. He's willing to be here.
I
He's
just
on
don't-
leave.
there's I want
Your Honor, from the very beginning of Layla Bird's case, the court wanted to see consistent levels of Ms. Pringle's methadone use. The court has received plenty of lab reports showing that those uses have not been consistent. Even someone from the El Dorado Clinic testified that in a previous case that that she should not be negative. If the Honor was to look at Ms. Pringle's lab reports, disregard the fact that the lab did not do the correct test on this and tested for bath salts, and instead, the department sent her for the specific reasons of getting that level. She tested negative the day before this incident, which indicates that she has not been taking her methadone treatment the way she's supposed to. Because regardless of what time or what morning, whether it's 8 o'clock or 9 o'clock, she is to have consistent methadone in her body. And Mr. Jeffries did
hang on
testify.
just a moment. I'm sorry. Give me just a moment. I'm sorry. Where I'm at right now is I will listen to argument as to why I shouldn't give her baby back today. I thought that at the end of Miss Allen's testimony, that there would be more than speculation about the substantial risk of harm.
There is, Judge,
Be
with
to
all the
know the
pieces
lead.
taken into consideration.
Taking in everyone else's testimony, Your Honor, there's an indication that Miss Pringle was on some kind of substance at that time that caused concerns from not only Mr. Williamson, but also from Miss Allen. As Miss Allen stated, we're not talking about, one incident. We're talking about a continuous course of action that Miss Pringle has in her failure to maintain her methadone treatment program, which is why we sent her for a hair follicle in hopes that would help out.
Well, and
this.
it's not just that. We have worked to get
One
the-
argument at a time, please. One argument at a time. and we'll go
We're
to
arguing?
counsel. Yes, that's what I asked for.
Oh, I didn't realize we were
Argue.
arguing, Your Honor, because technically CASA hasn't spoken yet, and I believe that they have the best interests of the child in mind and should be heard from as well. Miss
No, I'm
Beck,
asking for argument because at this point, and unless there's going to be, like, Miss Beatty was not there on that night.
She was in the morning.
She was
she was there in the
earlier.
morning, Your Honor.
And so,
And she's had plenty of conversations with Miss Pringle to also confirm that there was co-sleeping done. There's been conversations with Miss Adams and Miss Pringle that they have serious concerns for returning this baby, Your Honor. So
one person
and
at a
so-
time, please.
if the department is concerned, if CASA is concerned, if the child's attorney is concerned, Your Honor, based on just those actions that was observed on the night of August 23rd, that should raise concern to the court as well, that this baby is not safe at this time until Miss Pringle actually maintains her methadone treatment according to plan. And until she is able to control that methadone, originally it was okay, as long as she's keeping up with the methadone treatment program correctly. All these lab test results, along with the testimony of Mr. Williamson, Miss Ashley Bird, Miss Stacy Allen, even Mr. Jorge Galicia, by her avoiding CPS contact, all these indicate that she has not been maintaining her treatment program as required. And therefore, if she tests negative the day before this incident, when she should never test negative, and then she's showing symptoms of methadone use based on what her demeanor showed Miss Allen, that is another indication that she is misusing her methadone. And even Miss Pringle has made statements knowing that methadone has been the cause of these issues, that she is willing to work in getting off of methadone. Your Honor, the plan is to help her in that, if that is her plan, and also provide her to a different treatment facility where they are better regulated than we believe El Dorado Clinic is. We're not saying that this baby is not. The concerns that we've explained through our witnesses is that this baby is in danger, and I myself, as well as CASA, Miss Ortiz Tang, Miss Allen, Miss Fisher, that we're going to end up with a dead baby in this situation. That's the biggest concern, because co-sleeping alone, that itself and it's concerning if you're on drugs and you're not able to substantiate when your baby is awake. Using your methadone and not being able to care for a newborn, that is concerns for everyone involved besides Miss Pringle and Mr. Bird. Your Honor, everyone in this case has been involved with Miss Pringle for a year and a half, and the concerns we have are not light concerns. We are talking about a 2-month-old that cannot even crawl away from an intoxicated or inebriated mother. And I'm not saying Miss Pringle is a bad mother. I've observed her myself. When she is not under the influence of substances, she takes good care of her kids. I'm not saying that. But Your Honor, there is a concern with this methadone treatment and the way she is interacting with her children. And that causes the concern for the safety of these children, which in turn, the best interests of these children are to provide a safe home while Miss Pringle continues to work on her program.
Can I say something,
How
please?
long
Your Honor?
until? No, Brittany, thank
No.
you. How long until the segmented hair follicle test is returned?
I am not sure, Your Honor. It was sent out on Tuesday. I think they said anywhere from 1 to 2 weeks turnaround. I can follow with Mr. Jeffries to get a
Please
better
do,
idea.
and please see if you're, so that you can provide me with that information tomorrow.
Yes, Your Honor.
Once that test is paid for, it can come back in 1 to 2 weeks.
I'm not
I
sure
don't
why the concern of being paid for or not it is. As the test comes back, the test comes back, correct? CPS is going to take care of it because that's what they're going to do. I'm not sure what the relevance is of this test not being paid for. Is
Well,
it
I
not
think
accurate? Is it
Change
not
the
paid for?
timeline.
I'm sorry.
That's my concern, is that how long is it, if he's not going to release the results until he receives payment from the department, how long is it going to take for the department to provide the payment?
Ms. Ortiz Tang?
Can I say something? Yeah, tomorrow
Please.
we have the custodian of records coming from Main Stop and coming with TDATs with the chain of custody. And in those urine screens, there's enough evidence for the concern to be validated. Based on Mr. Jeffries' testimony from a couple of days ago, if you have numbers that are over 25,000.
Well, let's not
20,000.
testify to
No, I'm just
things that are
repeating.
not
what he
yet
said.
in the
I am
evidence.
repeating what he said. Then
Or
there's.
not-
So if we are allowed to please present our witnesses, tomorrow we'll have the chain of records, chain of custody that you requested, Judge. The custodian of records will be present to testify and will get you admissible UAs that will cause enough to raise your eyebrows.
Okay.